I honestly believe that we need to prepare for civil unrest. Now, we're going to talk about some stories today that almost brings that to fruition. I don't believe that the election will just all of a sudden make everybody just happy and we'll go back to just talking about the weather and football. I don't think that's going to happen. I believe it's going to be complete infighting and polarization still. Today we're going to talk about a few things that we need to pay attention to that is already happening that I think will get worse after the election, no matter who wins. Now, I do believe there is a Trump win coming, no doubt. I believe it's a landslide showing. That could be our only help, is the fact that he wins by significant margins. However, today we're going to talk about the reasons of how they're trying to stop him, but also what we should be looking for maybe days or weeks after the election. Let's dive into these things today. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. Everything that we share, even though sometimes it could be hard to listen to, it's all things that are happening, and we don't need to cover ourselves up or put our head in the sand. We need to actually understand it, learn from it, gain wisdom from it, and then a way to look at a common sense approach to it. So that's kind of the point of our videos. Our goal is to build a sustainable, prepping way of looking at things. We homestead and raise our family, and we hope that we can help you as well. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. We are, again, just a few days before the election. A big deal that we've been talking about for a year or two now. But the bottom line is we're getting to the point where it's all coming to fruition. I believe we're seeing Kamala use more terminology, and the Democrats using more terminology and rhetoric that's actually worse than what they criticized Trump for. It just blows my mind. You know, the comparisons to Germany, or comparisons to this fascist leader and all this, it doesn't really play out well when Trump has been elected and actually has come before the people with populist vote and got the Republican nod. Not only that, had attempts on his life. However, the same people that's telling that he's a tyrant and dictator literally just put their person into power, took out another person into power, and not one of you got to vote on it to say if you agreed with it or not. I think what the votes are showing now, though, is most people don't agree with it because she is absolutely incompetent. Now, she will not win. Trump will win by wide margins unless there's some shadiness. Well, today we're going to start off with that shadiness. You know, I told you, and again, I'm not against law enforcement, police, nothing like that. I support them. The ones in my local town are great friends of mine, know them well. The difference, though, is this, and I've told you to be very careful of supporting what we call the police state or enforcement wing of the government. Remember, our military and our police, as good as some of those guys are, they are rank and file to the system. If it's broken, they're helping the brokenness. They're not helping fix it unless they're willing to stand against it. Now, what do I mean? There was a story yesterday. First, it says in Pennsylvania. I want you to listen to this. This is huge. It says that early voting numbers in Pennsylvania indicate that Republicans are outperforming the Democrats 435,000 votes at the same time it was in 24 and 20. So 4 years ago, we are outperforming the numbers from 4 years ago by 435,000. Now you're like, wow, that's great. That needs to happen. And that is good news, absolutely. But early voting, we're going to talk about in Bucks County. Now, Bucks County's come out and said this didn't happen. They've got footage of it. Again, independent journalism. Breaking new video from Bucks County shows that the Pennsylvania police officers blocked the door. It was supposed to close at 5 for early voting and to get registered. And it was 4:40, and they were trying to let only a certain amount of people in. The rest they were holding out. It says they were not allowed to go and enter in the building. Another independent journalist said, what happened in America? A man standing in line to vote had a hat on that said, "Make America Great." Now remember, this is one of those situations. It's not got Trump 24 on it. It's just a hat. It's sad that we as Americans, think that Make America Great Again is such a bad thing. Even on the left or right, why would anybody not want to make America a great country? Guess what? A police told him he would take him to jail. Exact quote. If you refuse to take it off, you will be thrown in jail. Now, is that how an officer should be speaking to someone standing to have the right to vote? This is actually at the same situation where the vote was getting suppressed by these officers. So here's what I'm saying. Support your local law enforcement if they're taking care of you. And of course we support our military. But remember, the don't tread on me doesn't really fit into the whole plan of, okay, we want full law enforcement and regulation. You have to understand that they are the enforcement wing of the government. The government has no power without the enforcement wing. Now, does that mean that we should be mad or defund? No, that's all a farce. That means we have to have the best and brightest people in this position so that way they can uphold law but don't forcefully regulate or over-regulate or enforce bad law or bad statutes on local citizens. Both these situations are that. I'm going to throw you in jail for wearing a hat. Does that sound like America? Or we're going to keep the doors closed because there's not going to be enough time for you to get into the doors by 5 o'clock. And they held them back. Held people's right to vote. That's called suppression, is it not? Doesn't matter if they were right or left. The bottom line was Pennsylvania numbers are showing strong conservative push, and all of a sudden the police, because of the administration and because of the governor, held back. Wouldn't let them go in. That's a serious issue, and I think we're going to see more of that. And that's where I keep saying prepare for the civil unrest. Do you believe that things like martial law can happen? Do you believe things like over-enforcement cannot happen, especially in these cities? Now, I want to read a story from another city, and this has nothing to do with the election, but I want to just show you kind of where we're at. This is an article from Zero Hedge. It says, complete and utter lawlessness. Seattle residents concerned over the chaos by all the illegal street racing and partying from people that are breaking the law. So what I'm saying is, we already see panic in these Democratic-led cities. We already see problems in these states where Democrats have been over. Think about Minneapolis with Tim Walz. Think about San Francisco. Think about Seattle with Washington. Think about New York. Now, one thing I got to give Eric Adams, even though now the Democratic Party is trying to ruin him, he come out and said that all this rhetoric's got to stop, and this back and forth with the Democrats and Republicans is wrong. Now, as a Democrat saying that, that's why they're trying to attack him now. But he brings up a valid point. If we don't watch ourselves, this rhetoric is going to turn into anger. When we call someone a fascist or a Hitler, I mean, come on, people. What are we doing? And the media is going along with it. They're adding to the fire by adding more fuel. So when we talk about prepare for civil unrest, you're already having unrest in the cities and chaos from local citizens saying we've got to take care of and actually obey the laws. These people are racing a city. They're running over things. They're tearing our city up, tearing our cities up. In Colorado, there's illegals that are taking over buildings. Texas is starting to happen too. So if you're already seeing this in the cities, and then you have the propaganda and the rhetoric from the media, don't you think it's going to get a little worse, especially if Trump wins? Now I'm going to bring up another fact. Ex-CIA officer says this, and this is where it gets really serious. And we talked about this just vaguely the other day from Jamie Raskin. But listen to this. It says, former CIA advisor states, and this is from Paradigm Press. It says, Democrats could still block Trump even after he wins. Now that should open up your ears anyway, because you're saying, okay, everybody sees that he's winning. Everybody sees that he could win in landslide. Now what do they got up their sleeve? I told you this. Remember, if Trump wins the election, there's still 2 months before he actually takes the office. And his transition team is going to be working through that. Do you honestly believe it's going to be a smooth transition, or you believe they're going to try to wrap him up even more? Here's my point. They won't stop, and it will get ugly. The election is 6 days away, and the Dems are already moving to the next stage just in case Kamala loses. With Trump's momentum and surging, the only path to victory is to have shady dealings like we were talking about in Pennsylvania. And all they will do is allow for Hades to break loose. if he wins. Listen to this. They are telling the truth. Here's the plan. According to the former CIA and Pentagon and White House advisor, Jim Rickards, it says an obscure 1866 law signed by Congress after the war, Civil War, could seal the fate of the presidential election. Listen to this. Most Americans have never heard this law, but Democrats are planning to use it to block Trump, even if he wins days from now. Jamie Raskin's already made a point of this, is that they're going to try to get him on malcontent back to the J6 situation. They're going to try to get him with not being a transfer of power. They're going to try to get him to, well, he's broken all these laws, he's a felon, he can't be president. They're going to try to wrap him up in lawfare still, even after election. And they're going to try to use this kind of law to take power from him. Now, is that going to work? I doubt it. I hope it doesn't. But do you believe that's going to cause for civil unrest? It's going to cause for unpeace. And that's after a few things. I mean, you also are sitting with U.S. banks. Listen to this from Unusual Whales. And the reason I want to bring this up is now you're adding a financial problem along with this. U.S. banks are currently sitting on, listen to this, $750 billion in losses on real estate debt. Now you're like, Colby, I mean, we're in $35 trillion. What is another $750 billion? 2008, when the market fell out, that is 7 times higher than what it was when the market fell out. So we have 7 times the amount of bank debt on real estate than we had back in 08 and 09 when the market fell to pieces. You know, I told you that Kamala and Biden were trying to hold the economy up. The Fed and the Treasury Secretary are funneling tons of money to the public sector, tons of money to the stock market to inflate it, to make it where it will hold. They don't care about the inflation right now. They need to make sure that market doesn't crash. And I believe that you're going to see a crash or a correction, especially if Trump gets in, because they're going to be able to blame it on him. Even though it's not his fault, they're going to blame it on him. Well, these banks are struggling. They're 7 times higher on the housing bubble issue than what they were in 08, 09 when the market fell out. Without the government funneling money to them. Remember, we're in piles of debt. The reason we're in piles of debt, what they don't want to admit to, is that it's because they're having to funnel so much money to hold our economy up. What if all of a sudden they said, well, you know, we're going to stop. Trump wins, and you know, after he wins, Biden and Harris just say, well, we're going to stop it. And all of a sudden you see a major crash. They'll say, well, the market is reacting to a bad president and the fact that he's leading them. He's going to destroy our economy. And then he's going to have to try to rebuild, along with the fact of fighting lawfare, along with the fact of all the problems going along with the cities. Do you see how that will happen? This is not like, oh, I'm reaching, I'm trying to find sensationalism here. No, it's actually, this is the plan. You can see it exactly with the writings on the wall. The news media is no longer even commentating. They're not even having an opinion. They are proactively trying to just ruin Trump. All the while, he comes out and says he's looking to get rid of income tax for tariffs. Huge news. Not only that, he also says this. He says Trump announces that his administration will seize all assets from criminal gangs and drug cartels and use them as a compensation fund for the victims of the migrant crime. That's huge. That is the kind of leadership that we need to rain down on the cartels, the multi-billion-dollar cartels that are absolutely flooding our border with drugs and trafficking issues and pretty much ruling over Mexico. Think of how great that would be if we did almost like El Salvador. I don't want to see a police state, but you know what they did? They knew there was a gang issue and a cartel and a drug issue in a certain area. They marched thousands of policemen in, surrounded it where the drug cartels couldn't do anything. Now, here's the difference, and here's what I'm talking about with the enforcement wing, like we talked about on the very first point. When you have a strong leader who is looking for Americans' values and hoping to see freedom and liberty pushed, the enforcement wing, the police, the military are working to the interest of Americans. But when you have someone who is leading and trying to overregulate, overtax, and take control of your freedom, such as freedom of speech and liberty and religion, then the enforcement will be against the Americans. There's the difference. That's why we need a strong leader who's willing to say, look, we're going to go after the cartels. DeSantis said the same thing, and I thought that was huge. That other people of the party, especially even more on the conservative side, are saying, we need to go after the money in the cartels. You wonder how we're going to pay for people to go back? You wonder how we're going to pay to shut the border down? Take the billions of the trafficking money and the drug money that is across the border and get it back from all the Americans that's pretty much lost money to the situation of the border. That's huge. That's making real change. Another 2 stories and we're wrapping it up. Gold is hitting the highest price ever. Now, that's a great thing for people like me who buy gold. And I tell you, I promise you, you need to look at buying gold and silver to hedge against this market problem with the billions of dollars in bank problems. Buy some gold, even though it's high. Keep on buying it because it's a good investment. I use Genesis Gold. You don't have to use Genesis Gold. They're a Christian-based, family-oriented group, and I love them. There's a link below if you want to try them out, but I promise you, it's worth it. Move a 401k, grab some physical gold, grab some physical silver. It's going up. Now, here's the problem with that. It's not that gold is the problem. It's the fact that people are realizing how bad this market really is. The biggest players. And see, Citadel's leader, Griffin, the other day, a billionaire, came out and said at a Saudi event just the other day that he believes that, it's pretty much over for Kamala. Everybody's setting up for the hedge of Trump winning, which is going to be good overall. But remember, like I told you, no matter who's president, I believe we're going to face some tough times in the stock market and banking because we've been so frivolous for the last 4 years. So you're seeing gold go up. Pay attention to that. And in crypto, I don't like crypto. I'm not going to invest in crypto. That's just not me. If you want to play with it, fine. But what I'm saying is it's also going up. Both of those are hedges against how bad the economy is doing. So pay attention to those things. And lastly, there's a new article that shows North Korea is moving in to help Russia. Here's the problem with that. It's not the problem that we should be facing. Again, we should not be in these wars. But guess what the U.S. just said? They said if North Korea does help Russia, Ukraine can use all the rockets, all the military, U.S. military equipment they want to and go straight into Russia. Something that they've said, well, we're very careful that we're conscientious that we don't want to use our military assets in Russia. Let's just use it to defend right at the outskirts of the war and where the boundary lines are. Now they're saying, no, I want to use U.S. military goods into Moscow, into Russia, because now this gives them the way to say, well, the North Korea is coming in, we got to help more. So now, if Trump wins, he may be facing international threats even worse than what it was. Not counting Taiwan's $2 billion arms sale just a few days ago that Biden all of a sudden did, even though China was against it. Prepare for civil unrest. Prepare for chaos. If he wins, the cities will burn. If he wins, lawfare will happen. No telling what you'll hear. If he wins, prepare for Biden-Harris to ultimately see this economy, this war situation, and you don't believe that they're willing to take it all to hurt him, because it looks like the blame would be on him at that point. Prepare. All I can tell you to do is this, a few things. Buy some gold, buy some silver, keep some cash, make sure you have a good stockpile of water and food. We always say at least have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in cash at your home, or have it somewhere in an inconspicuous place. Make sure you have at least a month or two's worth of food, especially in the cities. You better have more. Now I challenge you to go for years, but you at least need to have 1 to 2 months at least worth of water and food in your home. You need to make sure that you can defend your home, if it be through covering doors, if it be through covering windows, or actually having the self-defense tools to do it. You need to make sure that you are being sustainable as possible. Things that you're trying to grow so you're not having to go out and get groceries. You better make sure you have energy. Do you have propane put up? Do you have gasoline put up? Do you have diesel put up? That's things that we stockpile because we want to make sure that if something crazy happens, I don't have to go to town. I don't have to deal with the chaos because I have the things I need. Make sure that you're covering your bases. Buy some emergency medicine. That is one thing I believe in. I bought 2 cases just last week. One for Aiden, a kid's case, and then one for my wife. Just resupplying what I already had. I bought those from Jace. You get a discount if you want to use the code below, but there's tons of companies that sell it. Start thinking outside the box. We need to make sure that we're ready for anything that comes our way. If it be through enforcement, overregulation, a failing market crash, a failing weak leadership, the fact that we have international problems, or the fact that Democrats are wanting to use lawfare even if Trump wins. All this will bring chaos. And it's time for you to stand up and say, you know what? I'm not going to allow it to happen, but if it does, I'm going to be ready. Prepare, guys. Make sure you're ready. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these stories. Again, remember to live for God. That's the only way that you're going to find true peace is spiritual therapy and that's through Jesus. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.
Be free.